Signalé en position de hors-jeu, il a éliminé Bizot. Mbappé. Oh, Kylian Mbappé qui punit. Le stade brestois en compte, il va falloir vérifier la position au départ. Mais pour l'instant, ce but, il est validé, il est confirmé.
Hello and welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host Ed, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about PSG's 3-1 win over Lens, the latest on Christophe Galtier, and talk a little summer transfers. But first, let's bring in Ethan from PSG Fan Club Boise. Thanks for coming on once again. Glad to have you here. How's everything going? And more importantly, how does it feel to be blocked on Twitter by the official Marseille account?
Oh, that's funny that you brought that up. Yeah, it's going good, man. That was a good win yesterday. A little bit of a funky game. The red card kind of changed everything real early. But yeah, I'm just happy that we've weathered the storm and looks like we should be cruising to another Liga title.
Yeah.
And regarding getting blocked by Marseille, one of the greatest honors of my life so far. So
I tweeted you that
feels pretty
I'm
good.
really I'm trying to follow your lead there, and they had their new anniversary kit of that fraudulent Champions League, and I said if anyone's looking for toilet paper, go ahead and pick one
Yes,
of
I
these up.
saw that.
But that
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get you blocked yet.
No, because I doubt that their official Twitter probably saw that, because that was some other post. But yeah, I saw that you posted that. Yeah, pretty funny. I saw another edit where someone just had an edited version of the jersey, and it had Bernard Tapie's face on it on the front, and then the back was just a bunch of dollar bills. So
Oh my
that,
goodness.
yeah, it was pretty funny. I don't know who made that, but props to them.
Yeah, you would think that they would just kind of like keep that, in the past instead of bringing that whole thing up because
They
we have
don't.
lots of questions.
Yeah, I don't know. They really revere. I don't know. I've always wondered. I've always asked people, how do they think that was legitimately won? But I mean, I feel like if we had, yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous, but whatever. I guess they need something to find joy in their lives. As they're currently about to go trophyless for I don't know the 13th straight season.
Oof, yeah, yeah. We'll have to see where the. Just looking up the table standings here. They're in second place, but Lens is right behind them, and even Monaco could
Yeah.
maybe nip them. So it'd be nice to not see them in Europe. All right, Ethan. Let's just dive into the 3-1 win over Lens. You mentioned it was on Saturday. We're recording this podcast on Sunday, April 16th, during your Lakers game. But it was actually a pretty even match at the Parc des Princes, as you hinted at, until about the 19th minute when Salis Abdul Samed, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, he nearly broke Achraf Hakimi's leg. It really wasn't a funny or a laughing matter. I mean, it was a serious tackle. It was a straight red. So he was sent off, and then PSG, kind of like a shark who smells blood in the water, PSG attacked and they scored about 3 goals in the span of 9 minutes. And so it was Kylian Mbappe scored the first, then Vitinha got his first as a member of PSG, and then Lionel Messi capped off what I thought was just a brilliant move by PSG, great pass by Mbappe to basically put PSG beyond reach. So I say all that, Ethan, what did you like from this match? What didn't you like? What stood out to you?
Yeah, I'll start with what I did like. Like you said, when we went a man up, we definitely knew how to play against them then, and definitely took the fight to them. But in the first 19 minutes before the red, we saw that Lens was pressing better than us. They were they were looking pretty good in all facets. Like they were looking solid, and Donnarumma had to make a save or two to not make sure it was prevent it from being 1-0 early to Lens. But overall, solid game. Not our best game. I think I cannot remember exactly which match I'm thinking of, but I know a couple weeks ago, I think it was the match against Rennes that we lost 2-0. This honestly kind of felt like that match to me, except instead of Rennes scoring all their great chances and us scoring none, it was sort of reverse. I feel like we honestly didn't play vastly better or worse than in that game. It's just this game we really took our chances being a man up, and in the Rennes game we just kind of lost. But I mean, really, we've only lost or dropped significant points to the teams that are in the top 7 for the table. So we knew this is gonna be a tough one, but yeah, they Lons got a bit. They could. I from the beginning, I think they kind of smelled blood in the water from that pretty good chance a couple minutes in, where, like I said, Donnarumma had to make the save, and from there on, I just think they were trying to press us like crazy, try and force a turnover in our own third, and that's kind of where that red came from. They were just almost getting too aggressive in that tackling, and that Lons guy, yeah, he could have really hurt Hakimi. That could have been a season ender for sure. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's almost like, I feel like it's just like that game against who was it? The one that we barely. I think Stade Brestois. We won 2-1, late goal. I feel like teams, they almost get too confident against us, feeling that we're a bit weak, and them going for the win, or pressing the issue more than they typically would against the average PSG side has unfortunately worked out against them in these cases. So, like the Stade Brestois, they were going for the win there a couple weeks ago, and for the first time the whole game, we were able to hit them on the counter, and Mbappe got the late winner. Today, like I said, it's almost like they were trying to press us so hard that it just caused a nearly serious injury to Hakimi. So I don't know, kind of a funny situation, but it's almost like us being weaker or feeling weaker than typical, Liga PSG teams worked in our favor in these games, but I will take it.
Yeah, I'll certainly take it. Definitely would echo a lot of your points. I think what I like, obviously, the score line. I like Mbappe and Messi scoring, especially the goal that Messi scored, that pass from Mbappe. That's the kind of football that I want to see, that I know PSG supporters want to see. That intricate passing, excellent movement, precision finishing. That's what we need on steroids. We need a lot more of that kind of goal scoring, and we just haven't had enough of it. Not only this season, but going back to the Pochettino era, if you can even call it an era. But yeah, that I just want to see more of that type of football. And with the players that PSG have in the squad, we certainly should be treated to more goals like that. What I didn't like, I thought in the midfield, Goal.com gave Carlos Soler a 5 out of 10, and the comment was allegedly on the pitch. If he is not gone this summer, we have serious problems. I think he's completely useless at PSG. And Fabian Ruiz, he gave away the penalty for Lanza's only goal. I mean, it was kind of a little bit silly. Maybe not much he could do there with it, but still, I just don't think he's a PSG starting quality midfielder. I think he's another one that probably needs to go. Which one of those? It was reported that Nasser just brought him in because some club was having financial difficulty. Which one was it?
Well, Fabian Ruiz was bought from Napoli. I'm pretty sure Carlos Soler
It
came
must.
from Valencia, though.
I think it was Soler. I think it was Soler that the Nasser was doing a favor or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I did not like either one of those in the midfield. I just think they gotta go. But I thought Nuno Mendes was played really well. Our defense is still a little shaky. I was just looking at the stats here. Both teams had 7 shots on target, and PSG had a man advantage for much of the game. That probably shouldn't happen, and PSG only had one more shot, total shot, than Lens. So Lens was still very dangerous. They got a goal in the second half. They were still attacking. It didn't even matter that they were down a man. PSG could not sort of put their foot on their throat and just kind of end it. They kind of invited pressure and just, I guess, maybe weren't concentrating the full time. But I think that this team was a little bit, if Lens had a little bit more talent, I think if they were at full strength, that PSG certainly would have had trouble with Lens. I think that this could have very much been a draw. So they got lucky with that red card. But we'll take the points. PSG one step closer. I saw that you had tweeted out. Do you want to give a rundown on the point situation? If you need a second to pull up your tweet.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just how many games are left, how many points they need. I know we're playing 4 teams that are kind of in the lower half of the table.
hmm
So it should be pretty much done and dusted at this point. But where do we stand?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna try and search through and find my exact tweet, but um, basically, I think we're at 72 points now. I think Marseille's game that's going on as we're recording probably just finished, and I'm sure they beat Troyes. They were up 2-0 right before we started recording. So they probably won. They're at, what, 63 points or something. We're at No, they're at 64. We're at 72. So we're 8 points clear. Although Marseille still have to play Lyon and they have to play Lens. So Lens, Marseille in like 2-3 weeks. That'll probably be the decider for who's going to get second. Where, so they don't have like the most insane schedule. It's not like they're playing every team in the top, 5 or 6, but much tougher schedule than us. We still have to play Auxerre, who is battling relegation. I think they're in 14th or 15th. And then we also have the teams that are all the bottom 4 right now. So we've got Angers, who's next week. They're bottom of the table. They're basically already relegated. And then we have Ajaccio and I can't remember who else is on 21 points, but I can't remember. But we're playing, I don't know, them, and then Strasbourg, I think, is also in 16. So those should all be fairly. Yeah. And really the only games against mid-table teams we have left are Clermont's doing well this year, and we have Lorient, and that's it. But I think based on how tough the other teams' schedules are and the fact that I think Marseille have 7 games left and they are 8 points behind us, I don't see them hitting 80 points. So I think 80 will probably win the league for us, which that's just 3 wins and a draw away. Maybe if they play real well, we'd need 83 or something, but we could easily finish with 87 or more to end the season. So I think if we lost the league now, it'd be probably like the biggest choke job ever, probably worse than any Champions League choke job we've had, just given we've got all these teams that are fighting for their lives, and they're going to play more aggressive than normal because they can't really settle for draws anymore.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be going for wins. So just like the Stade Brestois game, they're going to be playing too ambitious, and I'm sure Mbappe is going to score a lot here at the end. So probably 80 is what's going to win the league for us, maybe like 82, but that's only 8-10 points away, so should be relatively straightforward.
I might need to get online and see if I can get a ticket for that away match at 12, because I don't know if you saw the photo. They've got like a hot tub at the one end of the stadium where fans
Yes,
can
I've
just
seen
kind of like
that.
hang out and watch a game. I wouldn't mind seeing, Mbappe banging some goals while chilling in the hot tub.
Yeah, I have seen that. That'd be so funny. Yeah,
Yeah, we got to
yeah,
do
that's
that.
great.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say people thought that was strange, but like we've had that for years here in America with like the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they have a pool. Didn't the
They
Marlins at
do.
some point? A lot of the Florida teams, anyway, they have pools in their
Yes, they
stadiums.
do. Yeah, and I saw some photo today. I think it was Angers versus Clermont earlier today. It was happening real early while everyone here in the U.S. was probably still asleep. But Angers, I think it was at Angers, and they're dead last. They're 15 points behind safety, so they're getting relegated. So attendance was bad, but there was a group of guys. I can't remember which side, who they were supporting, but a bunch of dudes during a penalty were mooning the penalty taker today, right behind the goal. And people posted that photo as well. So if you want to add funny Liga photos, make an album, just start with the Trois hot tub and the Clermont Angers, group of 10 dudes, bare butt mooning the player taking the penalty. So
Oh, that's so good.
that'd be a good start to that album. Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
every game starts with a Uber Eats delivery driver bringing the ball. There's just so much to love
Oh
about this
my
league.
gosh.
It
That
is the
I
best.
forgot about. How did I forget about that? Yes, the little car going out every time.
It's
Yeah.
so
Oh
good.
man, I love this league. Yeah. Wouldn't give it up for anything in the world.
No, you can have your Premier League. We'll have our fun down in the French league for sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Unfortunately, we have to switch from all this fun and talk about something very, very serious. So, on the sideline for PSG was Christophe Galtier, who earlier this week had became the target of very serious accusations. The situation boils down to an email that was written by Julien Fournier. He was a former director of football at Nice, and he wrote this email to David Brailsford, who is the sporting director of Nice's owners Ineos. So in that email, Fournier alleged that Gaultier made very racist remarks about his team at Nice. So Fournier alleges that Gaultier told him he needs to take account the reality of the city, and that quote, we couldn't have so many blacks and Muslims in the team, unquote. He's talking about Ramadan and fasting, and so all of this has come out in an email. Keep in mind, this wasn't an email from Gaultier. This is what he allegedly said, and then Fournier relayed that in an email. So Galtier has denied these allegations and has actually taken legal action against some of those outlets and reporters who reported this email and the contents of the email. Um, Ethan, Mark Damon and I, another PSG Talk contributor, we did a long episode on this single topic. So we won't get into the weeds of it too much. My question for you is, how do you see this whole situation playing out? Because there's no doubt that it does make sacking Galtier at this point a little bit more difficult because now you have this whole situation, and is PSG sacking him because of performance reason, or is it because of these alleged comments? So just curious how you see this whole situation playing out.
Oh, as far as that's a tough one. I mean, I think by the time that the season ends, I think our last Liga game is beginning in June. I think whatever this was will have probably calmed down. Even if it's true, even if it's even if this gets really complicated, we just know with the way the news cycle works and everything, this will die down, whether what Galtier said is true or not. So obviously, if what he said is true, then that's just not acceptable. And given the fact that PSG have Qatari owners and a large part of the international fan base is Muslim, and not to mention just people around the world regarding the racism. His comment on what he said for quote unquote blacks. Just not acceptable if he said that. I feel like it's just going to be his word against, it'll be just people's words against each other. I don't know if they're actually going to be able to prove what happened, but regardless of that, I'm not going to get into the legal, really legal stuff of it, but I think it's going to die down by the time that the Liga season ends. And I don't expect Galtier to get, stay anyway, but I think that if PSG have to make a statement on it, they're just going to say it's because of the league. We didn't perform as we wanted in the Champions League. I know there have been concerns with how he's had favorable treatment towards certain players. People are concerned about that, whether that's true or not. And then as well as just some of his training tactics and just what they do in training and all that. So I don't anticipate that if he gets fired, it will be or that PSG will state it's directly because of these comments and quotes, but it's hard to say. Deep down, it might be. But if I mean, it's hard to tell what's going to go, happen behind the scenes. But my guess is they would claim it's because of his the team's performance on the pitch and not because of this. But who knows? I guess we will find out. But what do you have any other take on this? I know you just said you spoke about it a bunch yesterday, but
Yeah,
anything
and
that you guys said there that I did not touch on at all?
yeah, there was one, and if you want to listen to the podcast, we'll have it up probably later today over on PSG Talks Substack. So go ahead and free subscription there, and you can listen to that. But Mark David had a really good point. He thought that maybe PSG would go to Gaultier and say, "Look, you you can just maybe resign and handle your legal situation and clear your name, and then I'm sure you'll get another job in football." Or we can do our due diligence, start digging around, start looking for emails, start talking to people, talking to former players, and we can make this very uncomfortable for you because everything's going to come out if we start digging. And Mark was basically saying, I would imagine Gaultier would probably just resign instead of risking PSG finding something that could be out there or that could be misconstrued or something like that. So I thought that was a really clever take. He also said that there's some rumors going around that maybe Nice's owners leaked this because they're kind of going up against Qatari ownership over at Manchester United in terms of who's going to buy them. There's something going on because this is a weird time to leak the story. It's not like PSG are going into a big Champions League night or anything. It's a very odd time to leak something like this. And you always got to think about like who's benefiting and all that. I don't think there's any doubt that it came from the Nice's side, and both teams just played. Something's funny about it, about the timing of it, and there has been quite a bit reported about Gaultier at that time. You know, about Ramadan and the fasting and how he maybe he doesn't prefer it. We know that Fournier had gone on, I think it was last September, October, sometime like that in 2022, and he said, if I told you why Galtier and I have issues, then he wouldn't be able to step into a dressing room ever again. So like with all that going around, I'm inclined to believe that there's some truth to what was in that email, and whether Gaultier is flat out racist or ignorant or whatever it might be, there's something going on here that I just don't like. And so I hope for PSG and the club's sake and moving forward to next season that Gaultier maybe just steps aside and resigns. I think that's what would be best for all parties. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's fair. Although I'm wondering, yeah, Mark's takes I think were a lot more well put together than mine. But I think I'm wondering if he wouldn't want to resign because that might be some sort of admission, seen as an admission of guilt. If he thinks if I resign, that means that I'm basically saying I did something wrong, even if maybe he didn't. But
Maybe he doesn't want to
I
be a
did,
distraction. He could say like, "Hey, I'm stepping aside.
yeah.
I've become a distraction." That sort of thing.
Yeah, okay, I guess that would make more sense. But one thing that I do want to point on, I know I don't want to get into whether it's true or not. I'm not going to dive into racial issues, and I don't know Gaultier's heart. I don't know his, what's going on in his head deep down. But I did think it was interesting that a couple players have come forward and defended him. I know Burak Yilmaz, that was his star striker, Turkish striker at Lille, the season that they won Liga. He came out and defended him. So, and Burak is outly, he's adamantly, it's very publicly known that he's Muslim. So I don't know. I really don't know what to think on it, but um, yeah, maybe the way you said, yeah, I don't want to be a distraction. That if he's worried about something coming out, I think I agree with you. That would probably be the best way to go about that.
Yeah, it certainly would be easiest for PSG, and PSG do have some Muslim players in the team. It would be nice to hear from them. Hakimi, I believe, is Muslim. Kimpembe
Mm-hmm.
as well
Yep.
might be. I know Mbappe's mother, I think, is Muslim. So have it'd be nice to talk to those players, but obviously they're not going to get involved in this or say anything. Um, so I don't know. We'll just have to put a pin in it and see what happens. Ethan, let me just to wrap up this conversation. If he does resign or is sacked at the end of the season, we know Nagelsmann is out there. There's a couple other managers. There was a report Mourinho might be interested. Zidane is always kind of floating out there as a potential. I mean, is there a manager out there that you kind of have your eye on?
Yeah. So some people might call me a bit crazy for. I just know some people have really hot takes on who they want as our next manager, assuming Gaultier is gone. But and I feel like these are very different styles. So I feel like this is really down to I trust in Campos as our sporting advisor to make these kind of decisions. And hopefully, this isn't just Nasser making the decision because I think it's kind of proven that the QSI wing or the Qatari wing of leadership here doesn't, they miss more than they get stuff right. So I would love if Campos could take a bigger role at the club and kind of work through this, but I feel like Nagelsmann could be a very good choice. We are seeing, what's happening at Bayern right now as soon as Tuchel jumped in, and maybe by showing that, jumping ship or changing manager mid-season is not ideal, especially if you're playing pretty well, but
We're going to talk about that to
Nagelsmann
wrap up
could
the
be
show.
good. Yeah, yeah. Nagelsmann could be good, but I think deep down, I'm really wondering. I'm very curious to see how a Jose Mourinho led PSG team could work. I know there are a lot of people at Real Madrid, back from his time there about 12, 13 years ago, something like that. And a lot of Real Madrid fans attribute their success and their current mentality. They attribute it to that Jose Mourinho laid the foundation for that kind of mindset. We've seen how clutch they can be in Champions League matches. They just kind of got that dog in a mentality, and they, as some people joke last year, they just win with the power of friendship. So those kind of teams, I feel like if Real Madrid fans will go out and attribute that success to him, even though he's a bit of a controversial figure from his time there, I think that says a lot about him. So I don't know, but I feel like Mourinho at PSG would either be a smashing success or it would be a catastrophic failure. So whether we're willing to roll the dice on that and maybe go for someone that's a safer bet like Nagelsmann, or I don't want Antonio Conte, but someone like Antonio Conte, I don't know. I wonder how dangerous we're going to play the game here.
Yeah, Ancelotti might be available. Yeah,
Ooh, I don't see him coming back to PSG.
I
I don't
don't. Yeah,
back from his time at here in Paris. I don't think he trusts QSI at all. Which, if one of the greatest managers of all time that has coached at the club does not trust the QSI leadership, then I think that tells a lot about our current ownership.
I Nagelsmann is really interesting. I think when he was at what was it? He was at Leipzig. A lot of really young, talented players. I think that Campos would certainly look at him and say, "Hey, if Messi's able to move on, and we can build this team up with some younger players, um, maybe he could bring some of the youth along, Zaire Emery, perhaps." Nagelsmann is a very interesting option, and I think if you go from Galtier right now to Nagelsmann, I think you're getting an upgrade there. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bayern Munich game just because our old friend Tuchel's there. We'll wrap up the show with that, but he's a manager I certainly would take a long hard look at and see, but he's probably going to want assurances given PSG's history with coaches and how quick they move on. So it could be expensive, and we might have to make concessions to him. So it'll be interesting. Ethan, let's keep it moving here. Move away from the manager situation. We want to talk about the summer transfer window. I don't know about you, but I am just absolutely loving every player linked with a move to the French capital. All of them fill a need in the squad. They all seem like realistic signings. There's been names like Kefren Turam, Marcus Thuram. We've got Evan Ndika. We've got Jean-Claire Todibo, Ryan Cherky, even our old player Moussa Diaby. But the rumor that I think that is getting PSG supporters most excited is the one Napoli's striker Victor Osimhen. And so my question for you is, how realistic do you think that particular signing is, and would you sacrifice bringing in a few of those other players in if it meant seeing that the Osimhen come in? If you could bring in him and maybe one or two other players, would you do it as opposed to maybe signing 4 or 5 players? That's basically what I'm asking. So, which way are you leaning here?
I'm leaning towards the way I would prefer not to have Victor Osimhen if that's going to be the case. I don't see this transfer happening. And, it's funny when you mentioned that a lot of the transfers seem realistic and that they could really happen. I think that's probably because our sporting director is a massive upgrade from Leonardo. That probably helps. I just think Luis Campos is. If any of you follow me on Twitter, you know how much of a Leonardo hater I am. But I just think Luis Campos is far more proven. He's way better at identifying talent, and it's pretty clear what he's done at Monaco and Lille that he knows what he's doing. So that's probably why a lot of these transfers make more sense. And, it is just media speculation, but I just thought I'd point that out. But it's back to the point that you said. I would rather get 4, 5, 6 guys in than Osimhen and someone else. I It's tough because I don't think it's ideal with Mbappe playing up top as a 9 essentially. I think he's best on the wing, but um, which would make the Osimhen signing make more sense. But I still don't. I would prefer to get. I mean, we've seen this year that we have a depth issue, and that was to be expected just because finances. We had to fix finances a bit, so it's why we only brought in 6 or 7 guys and loaned or sold 17 or more. But I just would rather get a Todibo, 1 or 2 of the Turam brothers, Cherky, and then I think I would prefer if we're going to spend big money this summer. I mean, because if we're talking getting Osimhen, that's going to be 100 million plus easily. If we're going to spend that kind of money on someone, I'd prefer it to be a truly world class midfielder already. I just think if we had a midfield of Verratti, Vitinha, who I see as probably the best signing we've had this year. I know he struggled, but he's probably going to get to the point where he's going to be a Verratti-esque kind of player. And then if we got, if we decided that we wanted a 10, someone more like an attacking midfielder, or if we thought that we wanted a true six that we haven't had in a long time, I think going big on one of those positions and then just kind of filling the gaps with free agents like Marcus Thuram, Evan and Dika, guys like that. I would prefer that over one Osimhen and, one other guy or two. But what's your thought on that?
It's certainly interesting. He'll be expensive. I think well over 100 million euro. Sorry, it's my dog shaking. But I think what is giving this rumor some fuel is that didn't Campos, he had something to do. Did he bring in Osimhen when he was at Lille? I think that's where the connection is, and that's why people think that this is a deal that could get done. Everything we've heard is that PSG wouldn't have that much money to spend, but then there was another recent report that said they actually may have more money than they thought. I think whether or not they can bring him in depends a lot on how many players they're able to sell and what that transfer fee looks like. I think I would lean towards you as much as I do think we need a target man who can score goals, and with Osimhen and Mbappe would be fantastic. And then you throw in Neymar on the other side if he can stay healthy. That's a big if. I think that would be a fantastic attacking line. But as I mentioned to start the podcast, Soler, Ruiz, they're just not going to get it done in the midfield. We don't know what the status of Kimpembe is going to be. We saw him at the game against Lens afterwards on the mic. He's in a boot. I don't know. I don't think he's ever going to be what he was. I hope that I'm wrong, because I just think he's a great person. He loves PSG, but our defense is in shambles. Even Skriniar's coming in and he's got something wrong with his back and he hasn't played in a while. We just have way too many holes to be spending 100 million plus on Victor Osimhen. So it's exciting and all of that, but hopefully Campos can pump the brakes and say, we can't spend that kind of money on that player. He's a luxury player, and we are a team that we are incomplete. We can't go around doing luxury signings anymore. We did that with Leonardo, your friend, and look at the status of the club right now. We can't do that. So hopefully that's a deal that doesn't get done.
Yeah,
I think what's happening
yeah.
is they're using Campos, Ty, and PSG to inflate his transfer fee. If I had to,
I agree. I agree. I also think that might be the same kind of thing. Not that he's got a tie to Jude Bellingham, but I could see that as well. PSG's in the race for whoever, just to inflate the price. But I don't see us going for either of those guys. I don't think Campos has ever spent big on any one player. Not that he's had as much money at PSG that he's had at other Ligue 1 clubs, but I think his most expensive signing ever is Vitinha this year for 41.5 million. So I just don't see him as a guy who wants to spend big. I see him going after these guys that are 20 to 24 years old. He sees the talent there. It's not like he's buying true diamonds in the rough, because he's not buying 16-year-old, Brazilian wonder kids like Florentino Perez at Real Madrid. But he goes for these guys who are just kind of up and coming. They're decent and people can see their potential, but they're not quite world class yet. I feel like that's his sweet spot there. But I'm also thinking if we bought Victor Osimhen, I honestly don't watch a bunch of Napoli, and I wonder if he presses that much. But if he doesn't press that much, if he doesn't track back a bunch, we're still going to have two attackers who don't press that much or don't track back. We'll have Mbappe and then whoever the striker is. Neymar does a pretty good job, but I feel like you need two of your attackers doing that a lot. And I feel like even though Mbappe, he loves playing on the wing, he's going to have to be in this really positionless role, sort of where he's up top when we're in defense, and he's just kind of waiting back, seeing if a counterattack is going to happen. But then he's real with ease. He can float off to the left, and I just don't know if a guy like Osimhen, who's not going to press, is the right move. I mean, we've seen it just with having three attackers right now that didn't track back. It was basically 8 on 10 a lot of times, or 8 on 9 a lot of times when we're playing defense, and that does certainly doesn't help the defense. It probably is why we didn't keep a Champions League clean sheet this year. But I'm wondering, I really think that someone like Marcus Thuram, I know a lot of people want him just as rotation. I'm actually wondering if he would be, and I hope I'm not the only one thinking this. I wonder how viable it would be to start him. And if he's going to be a guy that, he's not super flashy, he's not going to have 40 goals in a season, but he's the kind of guy that might perfectly work with Mbappe. And I don't know. I wonder what that would look like. I want to see them play for France more together, but unfortunately, Marcus doesn't get, a bunch of playing time. France has some pretty good strikers, so unfortunately,
Benzema
we don't get
guy.
to see him a bunch. Yeah, we don't get to see him a bunch, but I just wonder if that might be a really, really good partnership. I've just got this feeling, but then again, I'm no tactical expert, and Campos knows best. But whatever Campos is going to do, honestly, I think I trust him at or 99 or 100%.
I think I'm with you. Yeah, I think he's got the track record. I would trust if he brought in a player I'd never heard. I would be like, yeah, great, let's go with it because it's a Campos signing. I also think that maybe he might want to look to the Premier League. A lot of those players are on large wages, but it doesn't look like Liverpool are going to get in the Champions League. Qualify, they're in eighth right now. Chelsea are down in 11th. I think that Leicester City, even Southampton, if you're looking for some young players, they have a great academy and they're looking to get relegated. I wondered if you could look, because this is a very odd year for the Premier League. Are there players that you might be able to steal away from some of these teams who are maybe have to save some money or who are going down? Or, Chelsea, they spend big if they're not going to be in the Champions League with financial fair play. Could you maybe take a couple of players off their hands and go with that? So hopefully Campos is taking a look there. Usually I wouldn't say that, but this is a very odd year. You wouldn't expect to see Chelsea in 11th. So go ahead and maybe take a look there. Cool. Okay. Well, we will certainly talk a lot more transfers because it's the most exciting part of being a PSG supporter. So we'll talk more about that as the season comes to an end and more rumors come up that seem more realistic. So keep listening and subscribe, and we'll definitely talk more transfers. We got two more topics left, Ethan. I want to ask you, PSG, as we said, essentially have one hand on the league on title. So give PSG fans something to look for during these last seven games, other than the final score. What are you going to be looking for?
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for. I don't know if I don't think that these kind of guys like Soler and maybe Renato Sanchez, who's been injured all year, or Fabian Ruiz. I don't know if they are quite. I don't think they're set on the idea that they're probably leaving. Unlike I feel like last year, guys like Paredes and Wijnaldum, I feel like they you could see on the pitch that they knew that they were probably out the door in a way, or they were going to look to get shopped. I still feel like if any guys have a pretty strong ending to the year, then they could warrant staying in the squad for next year. But that said, I do agree with what you said much earlier in the podcast, where I think Soler has probably been our worst signing of the year. Ruiz is so hit and miss, and I think he's a decent midfielder, but just not quite the what we need, or not quite at the quality that we need in the team. And then Renato, it's way too early to tell. The guy's been hurt all year, but I would love to see guys like Garby in the midfield. When we get little cameos of him, he's fighting hard. I'm surprised he hasn't picked up a yellow yet, a Verratti-esque yellow yet. But seeing him, seeing Warren get some playing time. I know that we've got Ekitike up top, but if the club decides to just try and sell him basically as soon as we officially buy him this summer, then I would like to see Ilyas Husni play. And then Bichiaba, we've seen a lot of him, and he hasn't been great. He's just not great on the ball because he's such a big guy. But I'm looking forward to seeing the young guys. I'm looking forward to anyone who's a bit nostalgic about football. Just watching the last 7 games, probably the last 7 games of the Messi Mbappe connection, and I want to see these kind of guys that have been fringe players. Unfortunately, Mukiele is out rest of the year. He in the Bayern match when he got subbed on, he that was it for his season. He messed up his hamstring good. But seeing guys like that that are not guaranteed starters, I want to see if they can show that they're going to earn a spot in the squad next year. And who knows what the transfer season or the window is going to look like, but a lot of those dudes will be fighting for their spot next year. But what are you looking forward to for
Yeah,
the end of the year here?
all good topics there to be looking for. I've got a few of my own. Nuno Mendes has become one of my favorite players. So anytime PSG on, I'm always glued to what he's doing. He just every time he's so electric when he has the ball. Something's always happening when he's on the ball, and so whether he's assisting or just sprinting past someone or making a tackle, he's just such an exciting player. So, from that point of view, definitely going to be keeping my eye on him. You mentioned Ekatike. He's been a little bit weird. He had that whole dust up on social media where he like put sub something on his Instagram and everyone thought it was taking a shot at PSG and he said no, no, no. But like he's not really playing and I think towards the end here he probably should be getting some minutes and if he doesn't, I would say that probably means that they're going to be looking to loan or sell him. Newcastle were interested in him last summer. I agree. All the youngsters, Housney, Zaire Emery, love to see him come in. Bitch Yabu. Um, Lastly, I think I would be looking at Sergio Ramos. How does he play these last few games? Does he put his head down and is trying out there and he's commanding the back line and leading the team? If so, I would say that kind of means that he's trying to put himself in the showcase. He's trying to show PSG, hey, give me another deal. I can do a job for you. I can do another season or two here at the top level of football. So kind of like seeing what his attitude, how his performances are. So I'll be looking to take a look at that. So yeah, those are a few things that, and there's always more things. Hakimi with everything he's got swirling around. How does he perform? There's always Juan Bernat. Can he get anywhere near where he was before his knee injury? There's a lot to pay attention to as PSG wrap up the season here. We did mention Danilo. He's been fantastic this year. Can he close it out? And I really enjoy, kind of like with Nuno Mendes, I really enjoy watching him play as well. So a lot to still keep you entertained and interested in the PSG season. Um, Ethan, last question. Kind of a little bit off topic, but maybe not so much. Did you enjoy watching Thomas Tuchel and Bayern Munich get absolutely smashed by Manchester City in the Champions League? Because I certainly did.
Honestly, I feel a little bad for him. Not, I mean, it's hard to say because I really respect Bayern as a club, and I actually predicted them to win the Champions League this year after the quarterfinals, but that obviously no longer appears to be the case. And I don't have this kind of disliking for Man City that some PSG fans do, thinking, oh, they're our oil brothers, and I absolutely hate that term. But you know,
Oil
but
brothers.
I hate that term. But I mean, it's not like PSG was not founded in 2011, just as Man City wasn't founded in 2008. But I will say though, we definitely have more history than them prior to the takeovers, but
Ooh,
I won't
yeah.
open up that can of worms. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you just look at the numbers. Just look at the Champions League games that we played compared to the ones that they played before takeovers. I'll give you guys a hint. They played a whopping two Champions League games ever before they were taken over. But,
And
um,
PSG have had players
but
before QSI that you've actually heard of. Manchester
yeah,
City, not so much.
yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, we've got a obviously I always say we don't have a history like AC Milan or Barcelona, but we've got a rich history, and it is kind of an easy cop out thing to just say, oh, PSG got no history. But regardless of that, like I said, I could talk for days about that. But I don't dislike Man City that much, but I don't love clubs that spend a lot of money, us included. I don't like when we spend big. The whole, yeah, just the QSI spending has not been my favorite ever. I do appreciate the investments they've done, but obviously it's pretty clear that you can't buy success in football, considering neither us or City have won the UCL yet. But it was a bummer, I think, to see Bayern basically go out like that. I think Tuchel's a great coach, but I think this kind of goes to the fact that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Uh, Not that Bayern were flying in the Bundesliga; it's still a race for sure, and they just drew again this weekend. But if you're doing well in the Champions League, and they hadn't lost in the Champions League yet, they had held us, Inter, I think, and Barcelona scoreless. Those are three good teams, and no goals allowed. And yeah, I just think that goes back to the motto: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they've dug this hole for themselves, and I feel like this is a sort of, not that Bayern is unclutch or that they're choke jobs, but I feel like losing to, who was it, Villarreal last year, because they don't know how to play against the low block because it doesn't exist in the Bundesliga. to this whole thing this year where they've now basically hosed themselves with a managerial change, because who knows how Nagelsmann would have done against City. I honestly thought they would have been decent, but they looked disorganized under Tuchel. But I don't know, hard to say. I do appreciate it though, because if we get Nagelsmann this summer and he's really great for us, then obviously I'll be loving this. But for right now, it is a bit of a bummer to me to see a great historic club like Bayern really shoot themselves in the foot, because they honestly did this to themselves, and I don't think you really have anyone else to blame. And I was thinking, I was telling you right before the show, I was just thinking, not that it's the same, but you'd never see in American sports, or not in any sport that I watch, that say in the NFL, you're going into wild card weekend, the thick of the playoffs are starting, and you fire your head coach. You'd never see that in the NFL, or I don't know. It's just an odd decision. I feel like from a sporting perspective, on paper, yes, Tuchel looks like a little bit of an upgrade, but I don't know. They had a pretty good thing going with Nagelsmann, and I know a lot of Bayern fans see Tuchel as they've called him a quote unquote mercenary. He just jumps from club to club. He's just there a year or two, and then after he's won a little bit, he dips because he doesn't get along with the management. But let's see if that happens again. I feel like this poor start definitely doesn't help, but a lot of Bayern fans really respected and revered Nagelsmann. So, but I know you already spoke on it a little bit, but kind of what do you think? Like, if you want to elaborate on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy that, just because, Bayern Munich is a club with a lot of history and all that, but the club itself and their fans, I don't know, they have this like attitude that they're better than everyone. Like, they come into our stadium and say, well, you charge too much for tickets, and they'll go into other stadiums and say your ownership sucks, and it's like, mind your business. Worry about your own club. Don't come into our stadiums telling us what prices should be for things. So they just have this arrogance to them. So the fact that they decided that they're going to sack their manager, who was still at that time could have won 4 trophies, and then they bring in Tuchel, and after like a few weeks they're down to like 1 trophy potentially. It's pretty incredible that happened to them. So they have egg all over their face, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. I also did enjoy seeing Bernardo Silva score, because he's a player who always seems to step up in the Champions League, and he's another player that's been rumored with a move to PSG. So I guess I do enjoy seeing him. Erling Haaland is just out of his mind right now. No one can stop him. So I did enjoy seeing Tuchel and Bayern end up with egg all over their face, and they just think they're better than everyone. And so, yeah, it was nice to see them. I wish it wasn't Manchester City that did it, because I don't want them to win a Champions League before their oil brother PSG. So I don't know. Hopefully, if City does move on, hopefully that there's another team that can take them down, because I would like PSG to be the first.
Well, they would be playing Real Madrid though. So would you take Man City in the final or Madrid? Which I don't really
I give
don't
Real
respect
Madrid
either.
another one. Who cares at this
Yeah,
point?
I guess. Yeah, whatever. I guess they have so many. It's kind of
At this
like
point,
yeah, whatever. Might as well.
whatever. May as well add another one to your trophy cabinet, as long as City stays barren of Champions League titles. That's fine with me. So, all right, Ethan. Let everyone know how they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm at PSG_Boise.
Fantastic. And of course, you can find me at PSG Talk. Head over to psgtalk.com. We're also on Substack, where you can find columns from Jonathan Johnson, myself. I mentioned the podcast, or on the Galtier situation. That you can find us at psgtalk.substack.com. It's free to subscribe. We got tons of subscribers, so go over there and do that. And thanks so much for listening and subscribing. Leave us a review if you can, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.